I said, how are you doing today? How are you doing today? I am your host, Lacey G. Souldier Turner, and I have a very special guest with me today. He's a great screenwriter, film producer, actor, working in a genre of horror and thriller. He's been doing a lot of great things, man. So we about to get introduced to him. We have the wonderful, amazing, talented Charles Agron. Welcome to the platform.
How you doing? Thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem. Before we get into your new film, I want to let the people get to know a little bit about you. So can you tell the people where were you born and raised, and how was your upbringing as a child?
Yeah, I'm born in a small town, Los Angeles, California. Um, Grew up actually in Santa Barbara, California. So pretty different from kind of like where the big city, then going off to like the Central Coast and that sort of thing. Ended up after college, I ended up living in Washington, D.C. for a while, and then came back to La La Land to get involved in production and that sort of thing. So, yeah.
Okay, so you left the warm weather and went to some cold weather, and then came back to the warm
Well, when you say cold, it's like
weather.
it's hard to understand. I mean, if it rains in Southern California, I mean, telling you this on a bad day when it's actually raining, right? But it was to the point where like weather would be unbelievable. Or like they're talking about like one of the funniest things I ever saw was living in DC, heading up to Atlantic City for a weekend, hadn't done it.
Okay.
And signs everywhere on the freeway saying, watch out for black ice. And I'm like, what do you do? Like, I don't even know what that means, you know? So it's like, I don't know. Do we pull over? What do we do? So anyways, luckily I've learned a thing or two since living on the East Coast.
Okay. Okay. So I did see that you acknowledged that some of your influences was like Rod Serling's Twilight Zone and Stephen King, especially The Shining and Eve. What made these, I guess, these directors and writers influence you? Like, what did you take from it?
So like with Stephen King, one of the most dramatic scenes that sort of like has always stayed with me was in The Shining when the little boy's playing in the hallway, and everybody always talks about like the little girls, the twins, that sort of thing. Obviously, that's scary. But I remember one scene in particular is when he's kind of crawling around and just a ball rolls into the frame.
Mhm.
Now, come on, that's not scary, but it was real scary. You're just sitting
Yeah.
there like it's like a ball just rolled in, and for you to kind of like tighten up and be like, "Uh-oh," I was like, "That is masterful."
Mm.
And so that was one of the scenes that like really captured me. Also like and same with like the Twilight Zone. Well, with the Twilight Zone, they kind of would kind of delve into different topics, and it's pretty incredible how many Twilight Zones there were. You can only imagine sort of what was going through someone's mind to kind of come up with all those different
Yeah.
type of creations.
Mhm.
But like the willingness to go into like the weird kind of the uncomfortable, and
Yes.
how impactful it really had, because a lot of people just sort of sit around, you kind of sit back, become critics, like that's not possible, that's, oh, no one would ever say that, and yet you're sitting there and like you're glued to the screen. And so that's what I want to do. I want to kind of bring somebody into the movie, keep them thinking,
Yeah.
so that I don't want to over I don't want to speak down to the audience. I don't want to like try to like I want someone to walk away from my film thinking about where they're at and maybe some of the behaviors they do. I don't really want to tell people how to think, if that makes sense.
Definitely. I love that. I love that about you. So let me ask you this: what got you in specifically into, like, how did you start getting into writing and acting? Like,
Well, it's funny because it's like I get asked a lot of questions, and they're like, okay, you do this, you do that.
mhm,
And I remember you know way back when, in LA, don't even know where to go.
uh,
I knew a lot of very talented people that also didn't know where to go. So
mhm,
in order to create our art, in order to get our like kind of foot through the door, we had to do everything, because nobody was going to, hand us anything. So we had a lot of, hungry artists, filmmakers, young directors, and that's what you were forced to do. You either like, we fought or be fought type of thing. You had to write it, you had to act it, and you had to be the artist. You kind of had to be like the one one-stop show. And I have to admit, it's interesting because, even when I think back now after that question, I know some people that actually did, pretty well, like some, outstanding series, big movies. And we were all just kind of, on one hand holding a script, and on the other hand holding the lighting at one point. It's been a long road. So
yes. Hey, look, I've been through. I'm a writer and director also, so I remember being in film school. Exactly what you said. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
yeah.
So let me ask you this. I know you previously wrote, produced, and acted in your horror film Monday at 11:01 a.m. Can you tell the people about that film?
All right. See, you can probably tell by the names of my movies and the the topics. I'm obsessed with time, and I find time so fascinating because I think it's like one of our most precious gifts, and yet people take it for granted. You don't understand how a decision here or a decision there can really impact your life. And so, well, I'll get into altered reality in a moment, but Monday at 11:01, I remember, obviously everybody's telling you, oh, you can't do anything. Everybody's naysayers, blah, blah, blah. I was thinking to myself, I want to write something that's edgy, that's different. And, and it's like the critics skewer you. It's like they can't wait to be like, oh, look at that guy's shoes. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, we've succeeded by, tearing them apart.
Yeah.
But the fans like the movie. And so the film overperformed, which I think is fantastic. And so Monday, and without giving away too much of the script, Monday starts with characters coming into a small town for a vacation. And, when they get there, it's very busy. And then, some strange things happen. They decide they want to try to leave the next day, but they can't leave. Think of a mountainous community where the tunnel in, the tunnel out, is blocked, that sort of thing. Well, next night, more things that are familiar, but you can't quite put your finger on them happen that night. And then the next day, the town is completely empty, and his fiance is gone too. And now he's sitting there trying to figure out what's going on. And the way I wrote the lead character, Michael, I'm like I said, I have to do stuff different. I just can't just go like that. And that's kind of like the beautiful thing about being an independent filmmaker is that, and there's not, I'm not criticizing the studios by any stretch of the imagination. They know what they're doing. Don't get me wrong. But, there's an element of, bean counting and, knowing how, what works, what doesn't. When you're doing an independent, you can kind of stretch the limits. And, that character, I started him off as being unlikable. And I did a reverse arc just to try to, just to change it up, and, the critics had their opinions, but the people that came and watched had theirs, and I remember, like a funny story. I was on the LA Times, and my movie was sitting there next to $100 million movie. And I started reading the reviews, and it's like, oh my, you know what I mean? It's like, this movie is terrible, right? Okay. So I start reading the review on the $100 million movie. This movie is terrible. And I was like, I'm in. I got in, So I don't know. So, it's so funny. What matters to me is what people think. I'm, obviously I've learned, that the critics, they've got their own job, and that's fair. But I'm trying to affect my audience and literally get them to, like I said, I'm not trying to pontificate. I'm just trying to get them to think about, their own reality a little bit different after the film is over. Just give them something to think about.
Okay. All right. So listen, we're about to get into your new film in 1 second. After this message from my sponsors, we'll be right back. So how y'all doing? I am back with the great writer, director, producer, actor Charles Agron. So now you got a new film coming out. You star, produce, penned it. The upcoming thriller, Altered Reality, is opening in over 150 theaters nationwide, February the 16th. What was your thought process in creating this film, and can you tell the people a little bit about it?
Oh, I'm happy to. Yeah, very excited about it. A long time coming. Like I was saying to you before, I guess I'm obsessed with time, and I went back into that direction because I've always thought, and people are sort of suggested, like I call it like a mix of like Twilight Zone and Sliding Doors. I've heard some people that have seen it kind of say there's like an element of the movie Limitless to it. Really, when you look into time, some people suggest that the past, the present, and the future exist at the same time. Now, obviously, this is kind of a sci-fi concept, but I wanted to delve deeper into that, kind of deal with the ideas of temptation and consequences for those decisions. And I like the ideas like if you make a deal with the devil, is there a no return label to that, or is there something that can be done? And so that's sort of like the backdrop of what the film is about. Really, my character, Oliver Cook, ends up with some medicine that doesn't exist. And he garners fame and fortune overnight. And obviously time has been altered. But what happens is that as he becomes more engulfed with more, things happen to his family. His daughter goes missing. And so now you're dealing with a character who has everything, but who has nothing. And so that's sort of like one of the things that I feel like a lot of the characters, I like very character, driven films, and I try to write them like, with distinct personalities, but they're caricatures of what I see out there. And I think a lot of times, people, like, the idea of family is taken for granted a lot. And I think that if you have a really good family, sometimes it's just like, oh, it's there. But I think people that don't have that rock, it affects them. And so I kind of deal with that aspect as well. So, once again, Caroline Cook, my wife in the movie, she's a broken woman. And so, we go from being like, poor but happy, but to having the world at your fingertips and just not wanting to be there. And those are sort of the things that I kind of play with in the film. And like then the idea of redemption and that sort of thing.
So could you tell me some people who, I guess, star in the film, and how did you go about picking your cast for this film in particular?
Well, I'll tell you this. We worked with some outstanding actors. The great Tobin Bell, he plays the attorney in the film. Cooper Mason, tremendous actor. Literally working on Saw 11 as we speak. But Tobin is an incredible actor, a surgical approach, great to work with. Great to be around, lots to learn from, and really a pleasure working with him. And then as well as mysterious house, I guess for a better word, houseman, Jack, is played by Lance Henriksen. Now, I tried to write the character of Jack as being very creepy, kind of nomadic. Lance Henriksen, this is not his first rodeo. And I mean, to try to keep up with him is pretty incredible, because he keeps you on your toes. He likes to throw little surprises at you, and I think that the impact is obvious, as well as the synergy between the actors. We had a great director, Don Fauntleroy. He did a fantastic job, turned us into a little family out there. And then I was very, very lucky to work with a friend, Ed Asner, who unfortunately isn't with us anymore, but I learned a lot from him, and it was a pleasure. So an incredible list of famous actors. And then we've got some of the ladies. They did an incredible job. Aliana Kamara, Krista Dana Hoffman, they jumped in, and really Aliana's dramatic approach is fantastic. And Krista, like sort of like the huntress of the film, like has this undergird of flirtation that, well, as you'll see in the film, is hard to resist.
Okay. So let me ask you this, Mr. Charles. What would you say separates this sci-fi thriller type film apart from the other?
Well, I'll tell you, you know why? I think it's very story driven. You're not going to, it's not the type of thing where you're, like I said to you before, I want to write something that you're going to walk away thinking about. And I feel like we've done it with this film where maybe, like I said, I'm not trying to, teach any, quote unquote lessons, but maybe change you just a little bit where you might leave the movie and just thinking like, maybe the decisions I make are more important than I think, or, kind of reevaluate the situation you're at. Definitely trying to put together, a smart movie where, you're not just walking away saying, oh God, obviously that's how I saw that coming from a mile away type of thing.
Got you. So let me ask you this: when you star in your own films, like how do you yourself treat the directors? Do you like micromanage when you're acting, or what do you do?
Just lots of screaming. No, I'm kidding. So I've learned in terms of a director, when I'm on the set, well, first of all, you have to have a director that you trust. Finding the right director is so important for so many reasons.
Mhm.
But really, when I'm on the other side of the camera, you have to trust somebody. So if you're not, where you need to be, you're not looking right, you're not bringing it, or just something's wrong, you can't be on both sides at the same time. So, you kind of have to sit back and, if you trust the right person, and like a Don Fauntleroy, that's what, when you talk about a pro, his credits are so long, it's unbelievable. And so I trust that when he's telling me, we have to do something different or something's not looking right, then you just have to go with it. And really, you got to work with people that you like. And it actually gets easy.
Feel you on that. Okay. So let me ask you this. Why should people come out and see this film Alter Reality?
Oh, because I think it's like a fresh sci-fi thriller drama. I think that you're going to love the acting. You're going to love the story. I'm going to definitely throw in some tricks. I feel like I'm pretty good at making the audience think one thing and then it's another. And like I said, you're gonna walk away thinking. And so far, we've gotten really good opinions of the film. Very excited that AMC and Regal are putting it out nationally, and so that's great news too. And I think that speaks volumes when an independent like that, they jump on board because there's a lot of elbows trying to pop you out. So we're excited about that.
Okay. So let me ask you this, Mr. Shaw. So on your journey, you've done a lot. What would you say has been your greatest challenge?
Oh wow, I think that's easy. It's being a father. I remember,
Mhm.
someone actually brought it up when I was filming this movie. My daughter was just born, and I was literally like, going home and trying to be a father, then learning your lines and coming to work. And without a doubt, that's the biggest challenge I've ever had to face, adjusting to that. But in terms of the movies, having to be kind of understanding what the space is. It can not be a very friendly place, and you have to understand that Hollywood. People say that Hollywood is very, I guess, pretentious. I think sometimes Hollywood can be very insecure. And so as you start to get, sort of your footing, or, a lot of times there's like all this politics, and there's meetings and who's your agent, this or that. Once you can kind of break away from that and kind of make your own path, not everybody is so excited for you.
Yeah. Deepness.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. What would you say has been your greatest accomplishment?
Oh, wow. I think that for altered reality, I think for them to be, we're talking, you said at least 150. The last time I was talking to them, we're talking about even more. And I think that, to have an independent distribution company as well, K Street Pictures, I think the sky's the limit now because when you've got the eye of some of these companies, I think that they're becoming believers, and I think that they're going to see a lot of good things to come in the near future.
All right. What would you say? I guess what advice would you give rather to any I guess, writer, director, actor that's trying to come up in the industry? What advice would you give them?
Well, I'll tell you this. I've thought a lot about this because we've been asked this before, and you hear a lot of people kind of just give like long answers and their placations and that type of thing. For myself, everybody wants to see. What I've noticed is a lot of people expect Hollywood to give them a career. I see it differently. I see it that you have to forge your own road and make yourself valuable to Hollywood. Now, whatever that means for you, it will be different. But I see people getting stuck in acting classes or getting stuck looking for an agent when you know what, you need to be out there and creating. And you're not going to be the best at first. I promise you. I mean, just wait till you hear your first critics. But
you're horrible. No.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. That means you're in the game. But like what you'll do is you're going to start to put together your team, the people you trust, and as long as you're honest with what your talents are, I believe that you can forge your own future.
It's one of the greatest answers I've ever heard.
Well, I'm glad, and I believe it. I was being interviewed about how Aliana and Krista, who I cast for this film, they were like, oh, no agents, no this, no that, and like one of the things that drives me nuts is the politics.
Yes,
they knocked it out. I saw them. They did their auditions. They knocked it out. So just like I'm saying with the critics with the movie, it's like we have to hear about everything they don't have. I'm focused on what people do have.
I love that. I love that about you. Do you have anything else coming up that you want to promote?
Oh, I guess check out alteredrealitymovie.com. And then February 16th, we're going out across the country with Altered Reality. Very excited. You're going to see some fantastic performances, and Tobin Bell and Lance Henriksen are outstanding in the film. And I think that it'll be something pretty different, especially with sort of the movies coming out right now. So give it a try.
Okay, so let the people know. I know you just said the website, but let the people know where they can find you at and how they can find more information on Altered Reality.
Fantastic. You can go check out kstreetpictures.com, or you can check out alteredrealitymovie.com, and you'll learn about all the theaters that'll be at. Plus, you get to see the trailer, which I'm hearing is getting pretty good publicity as well.
Okay, I'm definitely going to go out and see it. I'm definitely
great.
All right, my last question that I love to ask all my guests: when it is all said and done, and you are long gone from this earth, what is it that you want the people to know about Charles Agron?
Well, that's a tough one. It's so interesting that you say that because, when I do think about that, sometimes I think about how, in one way I'll live forever in film. But I guess that I was relentless, and that I put my family first, that I worked hard, and that, I think that's a pretty good lesson.
Okay, so there you have it. Listen, Altered Reality is going to be in theaters February the 16th. Make sure y'all go out and support independent filmmakers. We need that because we need to continue to grow in this industry. So I appreciate you for giving me the opportunity to.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, and I will let you know definitely when I drop this article with the interview.
Great, thank you, and let me know what you think when you check out the flick.
I definitely will. All right,
great.
You have a good day.
Okay, look forward to next time we talk. Look forward to it.
Definitely.
Bye-bye. All right.